I never thought of myself as brave particularly. But looking back, I'm amazed the things I did or lived through. It was an adventure. You know, I won't say boy's own, a bit of that.
Brian Stonehouse appeared in a film about secret agents made immediately after the war. During training, he kept a diary.
Sunday, January the 18th, Monver Manor. Have written to Savile Row about my uniform. Have nearly reached 12 in speed in Morse. Fired .22 revolver on range this morning and made hand grenades this afternoon and blew up a tree.
Brian Stonehouse paid a final visit to his parents. He didn't tell them what he was about to do, but his father wrote later how agitated Brian seemed.
With the unknown future immediately in front of him, from room to room he moved, playing the gramophone records he'd accumulated, merry French love songs. Played them over and over, as if he knew it would be his last opportunity. Shall we ever see him again? If so, it will not be the old Brian. At best, what he will have been through must have hardened him. At worst, have crushed and crucified him.
Well, anyway, he was a guest, and the goodbyes at the station, you see, I always hated goodbyes because the train never leaves. You know, there you are, and everybody trying to be brave and so on.
The first hours in occupied territory could be particularly nerve-wracking.
I done several kilometres to Lush, right through several villages. At the crack of dawn, you know, dogs barked at you when you're going past farms. And I had to catch a train for Limoges, I think the 7:18 or something.
There were countless details to worry about. Would his false papers stand up to scrutiny? Were his food coupons in date? How good was his accent? Was he plausibly dressed?
An empty carriage, except for this one woman sitting by the window. And eventually, you know, I don't know, said nice day or something, and looked at my shoes and said, my God, I love your shoes. And my brother bought exactly the same pair of shoes in England in 1939. So I said, my God, you know.
He had found a chateau outside Lyon from which to transmit. Over half a century later, he returns. The owner's wife, Elsa Jourdain, had been a fashion model.
We had met, according to his cover story, in Paris before the war, in the fashion world. And I was drawing for Vogue magazine in Paris. Well, of course, none of it is true. But this was just a cover story.
His courier, Christian, brought him more and more messages to encode and transmit. The workload was getting dangerously heavy.
In Lyon, what happened was that some of the radio operators had been arrested before me, and all their stuff came to me, you see, to send to London through me, and I did it, and that's when I was on the air for hours. I radioed London and told them that being on the air this long, I was committing suicide.
Inevitably, the radio detection vans pinned him down.
This is the room where I was transmitting. And I think a piece of the antenna was up there. I tried to pull it down and didn't take all of it. And then I hid the set in the bottom of the lift shaft, but I forgot a piece of antenna with the insulator at the end, and that was found. So I couldn't deny anymore that I'd had a set here, a transmitter. That's how it happened. extraordinary being back here again.
Brian and Christiane were arrested sitting on the back step, pretending to be a kissing couple. On her way to the chateau, she had actually seen the radio detection vans, but hadn't warned him.
It was careless, it certainly wasn't deliberate, and I didn't really blame her.
But one person knows the truth of what happened that day. The then owner's wife, Elsa Jourdain.
Elsa. Salut, comment ça va? La petite, t'as pas changé du tout?
Oh non,
Oh, pas du tout.
pas du tout. Et ça, c'était ma dernière robe du soir. Et ça, j'y tiens, d'autant plus qu'elle est signée de ta main.
Ben oui, justement. Voilà.
To my dearest Elsa, who was the staunchest friend I had in an hour of tragic events, ever yours, Brian.
Et ça ne ment pas.
Non.
C'est des événements qui ne s'oublient pas.
Brian then learns that Christiane didn't forget about the detector vans. She simply decided sending the messages was more important. Realizing she'd seal Brian's fate, she was suicidal with remorse.
C'est là aussi que Sabine voulait sauter.
Elle voulait sauter?
Elle voulait sauter. Je l'ai rattrapée par la manche, j'ai dit, vous ne sauterez pas.
Ah ben je ne savais pas.
Non seulement elle nous fichait dedans, et elle se tuait,
Ah ça, je ne savais pas que...
mais elle était ma boule de tien, de toi. Elle était,
Ah oui?
elle était très amoureuse.
Ah, nous étions des jeunes. Oui.
Brian was kicked, beaten and dragged up this path into captivity. After 3 days' interrogation in Lyon, Brian made just one admission, that he was not a French artist, but a British officer.
I thought I'd be shot as a spy. And I wanted my family to be able to trace me after the war. That was the main reason for declaring myself British.
He was sent to Gestapo HQ in Paris.
My question was always to gain time. You don't lie. I'm not a good liar, because if you lie, you have to be able to remember what lies you told. And so I tried not to lie for that, not for any moral reason, but for the fact that if I'm asked something 3 months later, and I'm not necessarily remember what it is I said, what I invented.
One of the Gestapo's holding cells. The walls bear the marks of its occupants. French resistance fighters, downed RAF pilots. Many did not survive. Brian gave nothing away to the Germans under interrogation.
As I say in French, je peux dormir le cœur tranquille. I can sleep with a tranquil heart.
Brian's parents didn't learn he was missing until over a year after his arrest. By then he was on his way to the first of 5 Nazi concentration camps. On the day Dachau was liberated, he was photographed among the mass of prisoners, along with another agent, Bob Shepherd. A week later, both were back in England.
Bob and I were in full uniform, and sort of somewhere near the Albert Hall, I don't know why, and a funeral went past. And we started laughing because we thought, all that fuss for one corpse. And I think one used to laugh because that's one's only defense. If you started crying, it's sometimes I feel now, if I start crying, I won't stop.